I would like to invite the next person on stage, which is Grzegorz Michalak, for voices and outer space audio behind the altars.
Hey guys, well, Simon delivered such an amazing talk that I think I will have to borrow him to our office at 11-bit Studios so that our budgets for audio will grow, hopefully. So today I will talk about the audio for the altars. A little bit about me. I'm Grzegorz Michalak, which is a typical Polish name, so just gonna be easier if you call me simply Greg. I've been working in a game audio for about 10 years, working for a vast spectrum of different projects, from very small indie projects and mobile projects, all the way up to the AAAs. I had an opportunity to work on Sniper Ghost Warrior series, on Hard West 2 series, and then I also worked for CD Projekt Red, working on the Gwent, the Thronebreaker, and Cyberpunk 2077. So let's talk about the altars. What is altars? Altars is an upcoming sci-fi, narrative sci-fi strategy, not a really strategy, but more of a management game with an element of survival. The game is about our protagonist, Jandolski, who is stranded in space because of the certain events that happened. He's stranded in space, and he has to work the way out to survive there on a hostile planet. And the way to survive for him is to alternate himself. And alternate is to clone himself in a way that he clones himself, making alternate copies of himself. When we were designing the game, we were thinking about the one question that each and every one of us asks, which is, what if? And that what if question is, what if we choose this over that? What if we didn't leave our hometown? Or what if something else happened? And with that underlying concept of what if would happen, the game concept grew. What if you can meet your alternative versions of yourself from different alternate life paths? Would they have different experiences? Would they have different skills, different abilities? And how would it be if you meet them, and would they be the same person or a different person? And that concept grew into our game in a sense that our protagonist has to clone himself to survive on this hostile planet and use the skills of his different alternate life paths to overcome the challenges. So I can talk a lot about the altars, but let's see a short clip. That gives you much more of an overview of what the game is about. So let's introduce our very small audio team. We have our sound designer, Filip Stefanowski, who's been working previously on movies. We have our music composer, Piotr Musiał. You may know him from Frostpunk series and from Witcher 3 Blood and Wine DLC. And there's also me. As you can see, we do really have a very small audio team at that project. And the project is obviously growing in scope, as every project is growing in scope. And with such a small team, we had to be as efficient as possible. And we have to use the resources wisely. We don't have, well, wisely, that's a keyword. We have to use the resources wisely so that we deliver the vision that we had for audio of a game. And that is very important, especially here with so many developers from indie projects, from mobile projects. It's very important to know that in that case, Wwise for us was something amazing tool that really helped us to realize our vision. In a sense, you, for example, see we don't have audio coder. We don't have audio programmer in our team. We do borrow sometimes programmers from gameplay team or from other code teams, but we don't have our own pure technical audio coder, which makes things difficult. And that is why we, from day one, decided that we need a robust audio solution that will help us to realize our vision. And that's why we went with the Wwise. So what were our audio goals for the altars? How did we want to approach the audio in that project? The main idea was that in our game we have two vastly different environments. We have planet and we have base. The player is constantly jumping between planet and base and doing different things. And starting with base, we want we want the base to be a very comfy space, a safe space for our character, a place where you are feeling like a home, a place where you can have activities with your altars, with your clones, a place where you have a rather chill music. And on the other hand, we wanted planet to be something harsh, dangerous, something otherworldly, ominous, and something that makes you don't want to get outside of your safe base and go to the planet, but you have to overcome the challenges that you meet on your way. Also in the base, we wanted the audio for the base to grow with you as you grow your crew with new altars. You clone yourself, you get new crew members, and we wanted the base to grow with every new crew member, and we wanted the base as a whole to grow because you're building new modules and new elements to the base. On the other hand, the planet is, as I said, something dangerous, something otherworldly. We also wanted on a planet to maintain the feeling that you're not sure whether the sound of the planet is music or is it sound design. Wanted to blend those two worlds on a planet so that it feels lively and different on a planet. So let's see how we realize that vision. First, let's talk about the base. And the base is, as you see, a huge grid donut. And circular base with grid system. And that grid system allowed us, for example, for use of shared reverbs. We started with a base because this is the most important place for player. In base, there's a lot of things happening. In base, there are mostly all the dialogues, all the emotions that happen, and a lot of narrative is taking place in a base. So we wanted to make it home-like feeling of the base, and we decided to use shared reverbs for the grid system of base. We fortunately have the grid on the base, and decided to create the reverbs for each of those modules based on how much space they take in the grid system. That's why we have the reverb for 2U, 4U, which is our unit, like 2 units, 4 units, 6 units, 8 units, and big storage, which is the largest module. We also wanted those modules to be something that you feel like you're in a room, that you hear, for example, bleeding of a sound from different rooms, from different adjacent modules that you have. We did use spatial on that also. We did use the rooms and portals system from Wwise on the grid system of the base. Although we had to use our own system of culling of the rooms, because you can freely move those modules. You can make any sort of arrangement of that, and you can expand the base, making it all hard on performance, so that when we have a lot of rooms and you can freely move them around on the grid, we had to cut some of them so that the performance wouldn't be would be better and wouldn't be so taxing on the performance. Another element of the base is the life in base system. Life in base system is a system to populate the base with things that are happening there, with activities, with elements that alters are doing in our base. And how it works, there's a lot of animation there, and with our very limited resources of a small team, small audio team, we couldn't deliver all the animations that we wanted. We had the trouble to delivering all the animations that animation team provided, and we couldn't put a sound to all of them. So what we've done is we decided to create sort of a modular system for a Foley, so that we create different events that represent different type of Foley movement, and then we dropped it to our designers. We gave them all the names of the events and say, hey, use those events. Obviously, not all of them were perfect, and we cannot expect from designers to hear as much of a detail as sound designers do. But still, in most cases, it was fair enough, and it only required a little bit of tweaking from our side, which helped us immensely to make it to deliver such amount of animations. Emergent events in our base, depending on what is happening in a base, often some events are happening, such as food poisoning of the alters because something terrible happened in kitchen module, or some alters are fighting because they heard different opinion. And with that, we approach it similarly in a way that we also try to use as much of reused modular elements of Foley sounds and Foley events. Next in base is also use of music to convey the concept of base being safe and base being a place where most of the emotions and dialogues are happening. We use the underscore music system for all our dialogues. How we did that is we created four different main emotions that can be supported by music, and those are 4 different tracks of underscore for dialogue. This way, we work with narration team and ask them, hey, if you want to certain dialogue to have more of an emotion for a certain aspect, then you can simply call a state from Wwise. And all the rest is done, all the rest is set up in a Wwise, and all they had to do is just call a certain state. So it's a state-based system for the underscore during the dialogue, underscore music during the dialogue. We also, on a similar approach, we also had bad aftertaste music, what we call. It's a situation where bass, which is normally safe and something comfy for player, it's changing because something happened. For example, the bass is in a bad condition, or the altered moods, their morales are low. And when that happens, we use the bad aftertaste music, which is very similar to our normal ambience track, but it's a bit of out of tune. And we play it as a stinger that is ducking the rest of the ambience music in the bass. Voiceovers. I connected voiceovers to the bass because most of the voiceovers are happening in the bass. And in alters, we do have 16,000 lines for all the alters. It's supposed to be all easy because we basically have just one actor. The same guy is playing all the characters. Fortunately, our voice actor, Alex Jordan, delivered astonishing performance, and we were able to distinguish in a tone all the different characters. Otherwise, having the same voice actor play all the 60,000 lines, it's very easy to get lost in so many voices. We use offline post-processes and also use a lot of Wwise post-processes. In that case, it was very important for us to use those Wwise post-processes, mostly because we don't have resources to do it all offline. And we're having such a small team, again, we had to be efficient with our tools, with our resources that we have. TSV import system. What we've done is we're thinking about how we can work with all those lines and how we can use all those lines how we can connect all those lines to our game engine and how we can implement them. And we were trying two different approaches. One was obviously external sources. We tried external sources on our project, but there was one major problem for us, for our team. We don't have audio coder. We don't have audio programmer. And without audio programmer, having external sources, external sources tool is a best way for such a large amount of voiceovers, where you just have folders and you drop the correct naming convention, you drop it there, and it connects directly with events. But in our cases, we couldn't support it constantly, not having the audio code, but we do have TSV import in Wwise. And what we decided is that TSV import is much more, in a sense, flexible for us, because we could simply, designers or sound designers could simply create a spreadsheet formulas, right? Creating spreadsheet formulas could then easily translate to the TSV system, and we could drop all the needed voice lines to Wwise. That's why we decided that TSV will be flexible enough for us and wouldn't tax our other code departments that we would have to request when implementing external sources. Planet. Planet is a second part of our game where players can explore the planets and explore its hostile environment. And the most important element of the planet is the Rapidium. Rapidium is, in a sense, a new particle, a fictional particle that stimulates and accelerates the growth, which allows, on one hand, for our protagonist to clone himself so quickly and create so many copies. And on the other hand, it's a bit of a holy grail, and the corporation that sent our protagonist into space really needs it, and it's a precious resource. And for Rapidium, we really wanted something else, and we wanted to get back to the concept of having blend between sound design and music. And from this concept, we created a music that is partially sound design and partially just the music. But we used the distance parameter to our Rapidium to define how it sounds. Whenever you are further from the resource, it's more of a sound design. When you get closer to it, it's more of a music. So we basically created more or less a little bit of a blend container within the music interactive music part of the Wwise, and thanks to that we could easily use it as a partially sound design, partially music. What we also done is using the distance to Rapidium as a parameter, we had to somehow work on the music that is constantly playing on the planet already. We do have ambience music on the planet already, And when you get closer to this particle of rubidium, you should hear this oddly partially music, partially sound design. And what happens is it was clashing a lot with our normal ambience music of a planet. What we've done is we divided both of ours. We divided our ambience music to two parts: to tonal and to main. Main is basically a bit of an underscore, really based in bassy white underscore. And tonal is a tonal part of the music. Having those divided into two elements, we're able to, using the parameter of distance, we were able to either, for example, cut the tonal part. We were cutting the tonal part almost fully with the voice volume, and also we were putting a low-pass filter on the tonal part. On the other hand, on a main part, which was much more bassy and white, we were only doing the low-pass volume, because otherwise, when we tried to do it in a way that we were cutting also the voice, the issue was that we were losing the size of a planet. We're losing the bass ambience of the planet as a music. That's why we kept the low bass and only cut the tonal part. Let's hear how it sounds. Let's get closer. So there was clear blend from music that was on the planet, was ambience music, to our rubidium, which is this strange, otherworldly element with partially music, partially sound design. We also used this parameter of distance rubidium to modulate the effects on the environment elements. Here is an example of just the distance rubidium changing the dynamic effect on, I think it's a flanger, yes, on the flanger of the environment elements. And we could use it on many elements of the environment, so that we had the feeling that rubidium is a world-bending, world-changing, something unknown, something that is reacting to us, and the world is reacting to it. Spatial on a planet. We did use a lot of spatial on our levels on a planet, and we really had to learn a lot about the spatial when doing that project. Well, when we started the project, we were really extremely detailed in spatial, extremely detailed in rooms and portals. And further we go, we found out that often simple rooms and simple portals work as well as good enough as complex, but the complex really require a lot of performance issue and a lot of memory in that case, or CPU to compile them. So in that case, for spatial, it was very important to do the right naming convention for all the elements, and it was very important, for example, to learn and to start from portals rather than from rooms. It's counterintuitive, but when you start from finding the places where rooms end being the portals, which is sort of a gate between the rooms, it's much easier then to connect the rooms rather than creating all the rooms meticulously and then trying to fit in the portal. So spatial really helped us again a lot. The fact that spatial and room and portal system is straight out of the box in Wwise made it possible. Otherwise, we would use the old way of trigger box that would cut the sound getting outside or inside, which didn't really work and didn't really fit, didn't felt like something modern. And if we didn't have the Wwise, we wouldn't be able to approach it this way. Another element is cutscenes on a planet. We do have some cutscenes on the planet, and we were really struggling in mixing the cutscenes for the planet. Because we would have to do all the cutscenes on the one offline, render them, and then put them into the sequencer in Unreal, which requires a lot of work, and we don't have that team that could deliver that. So what we've done is we decided to use a lot of elements that we already had in game, but use them in a special way so that we can use from the footsteps to scene-specific elements within our sequencer. We made a little bit of DAW from the Unreal sequencer, and what that allowed us is what we wanted to do is we wanted to have parameters that could easily, for example, dock elements that we don't want to hear at certain moments. And to do that, we took the voice volume of bosses, and then we transcribed them to the parameters, so that we were able to do +12 or neg20, neg64 for each of the elements, such as environment, crucial emitters, footsteps, cutscene-specific elements, and we had the parameters for all those elements. And thanks to that we had those parameters, we could easily mix within the sequencer. We could do it with state system, and we tried it with the state systems, so that we get to a certain state when starting the cutscene. But the issue was that cutscenes often require gradual change during cutscene of a certain volume, and states are much more strict, binary when on/off, right? And we wanted something gradual between, for example, having a wind in a certain moment of cutscene go further or be lowered. And thanks to that, we were able to do it all in the sequencer rather than mixing it offline and putting one event for our sequencer. And that's pretty much it, guys. We have much more time for question and answers, I guess, than Simon's talk.
We do have time. We do have time. So does anybody have any questions at all? No? Okay, brilliant. Well, oh, there was one, sorry.
Hello, thank you for the informative presentation. I was curious about the team size. I've never seen a team size so small to have an audio coordinator, so I was wondering, what is the role of each individual and how did you cooperate within this small team?
Let's start with our sound designer. Our sound designer, Philip, he takes care of, we divided certain domains of sound design for each of the person. And in his case, he takes care of all the Foley, he takes care of scenes, and designing a lot of ambiances depending on the act of the game, so basically the levels. Then there's me. I'm as audio coordinator. I have to take care of managing the team and managing all the tasks, doing all the Jira work, which everyone loves. So managing the team, doing all the meetings and all that. And on the other hand, I'm also a sound designer, so I was taking part in taking care mostly of UI sounds, cutscene sounds, and then all of the optimization for Wwise and for Unreal. We had our composer who only does just compose music, and we want to keep it that way, so that composer only takes care of composing. Because otherwise, when we tried it at the beginning, the way that composer, we wanted him to compose very specific segments or loops or what we needed for a game. But that didn't really work because he was limited by the concept of technology that's gonna that's going to be used further. So what we end up is we just let him write the music, and then we, in authoring tool of Wwise, we try to as much cut it, put it into loops, and implement it. And that's also on our small 2-3 person audio team. So yeah, that's basically doing everything. But I think it's great in a sense that you learn so many elements, and I think that's also experience of many people working on smaller projects or indie projects or mobile projects. When you have such a small team and have to deliver so much, and as I said many times in my presentation, that without such a tool as middleware, it would be extremely hard to deliver that project.
Thank you for your question. Do we have any more questions?
Hi, thanks for your talk. This is just a short one. I wondered, since it was just the three of you, did you all use Wwise at some point? I wonder if you could expand upon it. I'm especially interested in the musician perspective, whether they had an involvement with Wwise or whether it was mostly just yourself.
The people working with Wwise were mostly me and the other sound designer. In case of our composer, he was not implementing music. As I said, we didn't want to push it onto him to implement also music because that was a bit of limiting of his creativity. So all of the heavy lifting of implementing and using Wwise was on sound designers. And also we do obviously have some support from code departments. But that's the major issue that we had with not having dedicated audio coder, is that whenever new issue comes up with something that has to be programmed within the Wwise, there was different programmer getting that because he had the free time and a free slot for programming, and then they had to learn the Wwise again, and the new programmers were always learning new SDK, the documentation or that for Wwise, which near the end we decided that it's going to be much better to just keep it for one programmer, and so that always gets the same person gets the tasks that are related to Wwise. So yeah, mostly heavy lifting of Wwise doing was on just 2 people.
Just a specific small question about usage of sound libraries when you're designing sounds. How much do you rely on them, and do you think it's kind of limiting or it's expanding your creativity? Mm-hmm. Do you prefer to design from scratch? Do you use them a lot? What's your approach?
In my case, I perceived using sound libraries is absolutely fine. We all know what a huge workload we have when delivering a game, and using sound libraries is in many ways a go-to whether you have to deliver the content. In my case, I like to use them as a sort of seasoning. You add bit of the sound libraries to make it. To make as ingredients to make sound, just to layer it. But in fact, I'm not really fond of using strictly sounds just strictly from a library, so that you hear that this is this library. Because we all know, working on sounds, that we constantly hear the same libraries from certain production house of libraries. But on the other hand, when I was working on much larger projects, it really depends what the game is about. And in my perception, the best way is to obviously use the libraries, but for the elements of the game that are crucial, that are most important, do the recording, do the field recording session. For example, when we were working on Cyberpunk, we had to record, and we recorded all the cars there, because we found that cars and sound of cars is extremely important. So we wanted to record that and put it using Wwise for all we recorded more than 30 something cars. And that's why it was important for us. And if you're making, for example, an FPS game, it's okay if the UI sounds are from library. No one's gonna really care that much. But if you're doing the FPS, maybe it's good to field record guns or a foley because you're moving on the first person. So it's best to pick your battles wisely and use the libraries absolutely where it's needed. And on the other hand, do the recording if you can. It's a lot of fun.
One more question. Do you target multi-channel audio as an end device, or it's only stereo?
No, we do target surround. We do target surround 5.1. That's our main goal. And we, as far as I remember, I'm not sure if right now it didn't change for PS5 and new Xbox, but you have to target the surround for certification of the console on the consoles. So
down mixing is done automatically then? Or?
Yes, it's done automatically.
But do you check it?
Yes, we do. Yes, well, at least we try to do it and try to check it. Obviously, as everyone knows, it's hard to find the time for mixing. That's the thing that I would love to have much more time for with every project, to just sit, play the game, and listen how it works on 20 different systems. But in real life and real development, we all know that it's hard to do. It's hard to sometimes even find time for playing the game, yet play it on so many different systems. But if you have chance, do it, and play your game on every possible system to hear how it works. The best results for me, in my case, for example, to finding out whether it works good, the specific sound, is to just play it with some horrible speakers. But I guess that many people know that.